Good morning, everybody. Those who are participating from the Jitsi forum and those who join on the YouTube. It is indeed quite a momentous occasion for CILT, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, Hyderabad chapter, in organizing this webinar. So what we could get together is an excellent panel of 3 youngsters, maybe in their mid-30s or early 40s, and then under moderation of a very seasoned expert in logistics. And so it is indeed a very great webinar. We'll be looking forward for a very lively interaction, both from the panelists under overall stewardship of the moderator, and also from the participants on the YouTube forum. So before I just go on to the webinar proper, I thought I'll just give you a brief introduction about CILT India and how to join its membership, so that those who are new to the whole process become aware of it. Okay, so CILT actually, as is abbreviated, is Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. Originally, it started as Chartered Institute of Transport, and then later on, logistics was added to it. It is set up in 1990 in United Kingdom, and Royal Charter was issued for this institute in 1926. It has a presence of in around 30 plus countries, and has around 30,000 members in its active forum. And then it also has national branches working under it in most of these countries. And in the countries where the national branches don't work, they get attached to the closest national branch, closest country. CILT India was formed in 1988 as an Indian branch of the CILT International, and it has taken a very active part in policy formulation in the logistics sector, which includes all domains of transport and logistics, and policy implementation and various issues related to implementation, various problems, and their solution. It is also a great forum for exchange of ideas between various professionals in different sectors and people in the education sector. Especially the logistics being not limited to any one domain or any one transport configuration. This interaction of ideas becomes very, very vital, and otherwise most of the transport sectors and the logistics field is almost like a closed entity by itself. So that's the this one. So it is also very active in furthering the education. It has developed various modules and is engaged in continuing education of professionals at various levels. Next. So here, what is presented before you is a brief list of the objectives of CILT India, which is, as I enumerated earlier, it is in promotion of science and art of logistics, in promotion of education, in promotion of a development of a new policy, which is useful to all of us, and creation of a talented team at various levels for the organization. So with these objectives, it is working across the country. Next. And it has a membership network which encompasses around 40 corporates, which they keep adding, so it's just 40 is a current round figure, and around 3,500 members, which includes various categories of memberships. Okay, next. Various activities undertaken under this one is, there is an active women's forum which encourages, brings in all the women in the logistics sector, and also encourages participation of women in this one, called Women in Logistics and Transport. It has also organized training programs for freight operating information systems of the railways, and continues to do it. And the complete module was developed by it in collaboration with various railway officers. And then there is a Transport Mitra Foundation under active guidance of one of our CILT members. And then it studies along with this Mitra Foundation various trucking conditions and truck drivers and their lives. Then there is a conference organized for conducting umbrella body for the logistics sector. Then there is a training program and railway sidings and freight terminal management organized for various industries. Next. Then there is a continuous education pattern, and it is also in the education sector. Not only in higher education is it active, but it is also active in the active with logistics sector council, skill council of the logistics sector, where it promotes various kinds of education at very primary level in terms of train driver or siding maintenances and all those activities. It has also international reach, where it is active in promotion of logistics in various neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, Malaysia. And then, in fact, the series of webinars that we are organizing from Hyderabad chapter, which is the third webinar, is a part of that continuing series. And this is we welcome you all to this webinar, which is part of this exercise. Next. So, more in addition to the various other activities, it has a prominent role in the policy formulation, and it has signed a MOU with logistics Department of Logistics of Ministry of Commerce and Industry to promote logistics sector and help it in policy formulation. So the various activities, including standardization of domestic container cargo and equipment, sharing, increasing the share of railways vis-a-vis road transport, then convening of international conference for various South Asian regions, so that we develop a regional logistics strategy. Next. And then CILT as active memberships, and there are three categories of members at the individual level. One is affiliate or student, another is chartered, and third is fellow. So student member, when they are in student or when they are in the initial period of their logistics career, they can join, which is the annual fee of 2,000. Then there is a chartered member who is entitled to use CMILT, chartered member of Institute of Logistics and Transport, and the annual fee is around 5,000. But more prominently, is most of us join as life members, which is 18,290, which includes the GST. And for government servants, especially people from the railways, it is free, not free exactly. It is almost free, where 90% is reimbursed by the government, and you need to pay only around 1,830 rupees. And fellow is a more prominent, his membership is given to people of eminence in the logistics sector, and it is mostly by invitation, and so laymen cannot become fellows on their own. Okay, so the contact details are already given, and we will be providing further. And the corporate membership is the next category, where a corporate member pays around 2,95,000, which is the life fee, where 2 memberships are free. And then you can get various discounts in the seminars and training programs and expositions organized by the CILT. So all those who are not members, I request you to join CILT in the various categories of memberships which are eligible, for which you are eligible. And of course, all our panelists also, I request them either to join as individual members or as corporate members, because I see a lot of interaction that's going on between various members in different fora for exchanging opinions, views, and thoughts. And this is very important in logistics, because airlines is as different as rail can be rail from chalk and cheese, or from trucking sector, or intracity transport is entirely different from intercity transport, which is entirely different from international transport or intercountry transport. So exchange of these thoughts will be enriching, and I request everybody to join this membership. Okay, next. With this, I complete my introduction about CILT. Now, coming to the modalities of the webinar. Basically, we have around 2 hours of time. and we have 3 panelists, and under moderation of Sri Sharat Mishra. Go to that slide which is giving that table. Yes, correct. So we are around 5 minutes beyond our schedule, or 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll start with the panelists, all the 3 panelists, starting with Sri Ashish Goyal, then Raghwandan, then Srinivas. So that and each of them can take around 12 to 15, 12 to 13 minutes, so that to express the views, how they set up their company, what is their background, what fired them to set up the company, and what are the difficulties they faced while setting up the company, and how they're able to steer the company ahead, and what is their vision for the company. This is the generally what we thought would be the this one. And between these 2 panelists, we'll avoid questions except for few clarificatory questions which can be asked, and Balaji and Chaitanya will be coordinating. And if there are more deeper discussion oriented questions, we'll hand it over to the moderator, Sri Sharat Mishra, who will be taking it over. So then around 12:05 or something like that, we'll go into the panel discussion, which will be led by Sri Sharat Mishra. And then finally, we'll wind up the session. This is the basic format of the webinar. Now I'll go on to the next introduction of the first speaker, Sri Ashish Goyal. Sri Ashish Goyal is quite well educated. He is graduated from IIT Mumbai, and then followed by MBA program from IIM Bangalore. This he completed in 2004. And followed by that, he has an immense experience in different sectors. Experience in McKinsey itself is quite enriching, in the sense of it gets he got exposure to various industrial clients and other clients in McKinsey. Then he worked with, unlike many people who join various corporates, he joined Amar Chitrakatha Media, where he widened the reach of Amar Chitrakatha Media in various dimensions, including acquisition of newer titles, and also bringing in National Geography into India under this forum. And then, however, this did not satisfy him, so he co-founded Urban Ladder in 2012 as an online furniture retailer. And then he not only attracted capital from various other venture capitalists or PE companies, but he attracted attention from Sri Ratan Tata, and who volunteered to invest in his firm. So it's we are very privileged and proud to have Sri Ashish Goyal to accept our invitation. And now I hand over the mic to Sri Ashish Goyal to narrate his experiences for the benefit of all the audience. Thank you, everybody. Welcome, Sri Ashish Goyal.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks a lot, Mr. Babu. It's a pleasure joining this session, and thanks for that kind introduction. So I'm going to, I'll just quickly, you've already introduced me, so I'll not spend more time on that. Let me just talk about, my experience, and I'll specifically spend more time talking about my experience on the logistics, sector. And, obviously our business involves a lot of, logistics is a large part of what we do as a business. So we started Urban Ladder in 2012, and our vision is quite straightforward, is to help millions of Indian homes become beautiful. And as part of that, what's very, very important for us is to build a brand which is trusted by customers. Now, when we started in 2012, one of our biggest learnings was that whether on the product design side, product manufacturing side, but most importantly on the logistics, transport, product delivery, installation, that entire arc of the supply chain side, there were very, very significant gaps that existed in the industry. Just to explain that, we operate in furniture, which is 95% of our business. And while it seems like furniture is sort of, this big bulky product, actually it's a fairly fragile product. Because there is wood, which obviously chips and breaks. There is joinery in the product, which is obviously susceptible to any breakages or damages. There is glass in the product a lot of times. There is fabric which can get torn or dirty. So lots of fall points in the product by itself. If not handled well. Hence, material handling and movement becomes a very large part of what we do. I'll give you a small example of when we started the business in 2012. I think it was maybe the second month or the third month. We had a customer in Bombay, and they were staying, I think, on the 35th floor in an apartment complex in Bombay, and they'd ordered a sofa set and a chest of drawer, and all of these are large bulky products. And basically, for whatever reason, they're in their apartment complex, they were not allowing movement of goods using the elevators. So we had to figure out, and the staircase, funnily enough, you would imagine a 35 floor building, there should be regulations in place that, the staircase has to be a minimum width and so on. But it was a reasonably narrow staircase. Now, of course, I was in Bangalore, my team members were in Bombay, and they were struggling to get it up. But finally, they really worked hard and got the product up to the customer's apartment. Customer, of course, was very happy, but that from these are the instants, but it took, I think, maybe 4 or 5 hours to get the product up to the customer's home. Now, that's one small example. I'll give you another example of what is actually I'm sure all of us go through these things every day. A very unique situation we had a few months back, last year actually, with COVID time. Time flies. About a year back, we had a very weird situation that we started suddenly getting our damages for our products reaching our Delhi warehouse went up by 10x, right? And in 7-8 years of business, we had never seen a situation like that, of this high damages. Because obviously the products are properly packed, loading is done with sort of fair amount of science in it and all of that. And I was traveling in Delhi, and I went to my warehouse that evening, and our warehouse is about 150 meters off the highway in Manesar. So you would imagine, what can be the problem? What had happened is that last 150 meters, one of the government bodies had dug the road up fully. They dug it up fully. I mean, basically there was no road there anymore. And my even in a car, I actually had to get down and tell the guy that this is just impossible. I'm going to walk. You just drop me at the highway, and I'm going to walk. And it's very obvious, right, why we were getting those damages. And the reason I'm telling you these stories is that that's those are sort of the questions and challenges that one has to constantly think about and solve as we build the business. What happened is, in 2012, while obviously our core business is to build great products and get them to the customer, we actually ended up, because of a variety of these kind of challenges, and I have a long list, we ended up deciding to build the entire logistics network ourselves. So today, now actually from the last couple of years, we work with a warehousing partner, though we run it along with them as a partnership. But we do the warehousing, we do the long haul shipping on a 2PL basis. And we do the last mile delivery installation of the products 100% ourselves in the 12 cities that we service. And this also includes after sales and any repairs, replacement, and so on. So that's what we do, which is sort of, I would say, at least 40% of our work as an organization, 40-50% of our work as an organization is building supply chains and running them smoothly. Lots of learnings along the way. It's I mean, I continue to believe that that innovation and good work in the logistics and transport sector, there is a long way to go. For example, obviously there are a number of members in the session who are from the railways fraternity, and I mean, these are not easy problems to solve, but at least to me, just from a overall, whether you call from an environmental standpoint, whether from a cost standpoint, naturally, railways as a medium has to end up becoming a more and more relevant and prominent transport medium for more industries outside of the industries it already serves. How does one solve that? I mean, we have tried railways a few times, but given the nature of our business, it's not ended up being tenable. But I do continue to believe that for large bulk shipments, railways can be a great answer for companies like ours. But of course, many things need to be ironed out for that. But yeah, I mean, happy to be here. I'll keep my comments short at this time, and love to speak more and share more thoughts as we go along this session.
Thank you, Ashish. That's quite interesting. So we'll before going into the questions. So basically, as I understand, but what are your sourcing issues? Can you mention some of the sourcing issues also in terms of delivery issues? You mentioned quite a few.
Sure.
Yeah, can you please mention the sourcing issues also?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I'll just take another minute. I'm just keeping track of time. I'll take another minute to just talk about what our business actually is. So we design the products and get them contract manufactured in factories, many of which are captive to us around the world. Large part of our production, of course, happens, and that's what we prefer also. Now we also have, I think, about 25% of our sourcing is in-house, where we produce the finished product. We buy raw material and produce the finished product. Roughly about 35%, 40% is imports, which is from China and Malaysia. China, Malaysia. We worked in Indonesia in the past. We worked in Vietnam in the past. We worked in Poland in the past. But yes, largely China and Malaysia continue to be the most stable sources of sourcing for us from an import standpoint. In India, we do our production. Good large part of that happens in Rajasthan, because there's a cluster of furniture manufacturing in Rajasthan, and a good large part happens in Bangalore itself, in and around our central warehouse. Yeah, I mean, sourcing, I would say, is one of the highest avenues to create value. At the same time, a lot of challenges also. I mean, generally, what, if I take a longer time horizon, what we have seen is that the international shipping tends to be a lot more, in terms of its reliability, tends to be more reliable. And whether it's the shipping processes, whether it's the even the clearance. A lot of people, I hear, don't feel comfortable about the clearance processes at our customs and ports, but our experience by and large has been fairly good. I think it's also a function of the officials also recognize some companies which are doing everything above board all the time. So then they stop doing any delays or anything like that. So that's, I think, on this part. I think the long haul logistics on the sourcing side, I think always continues to be a challenge. I'm sometimes continue to be surprised by how in different manufacturing units or shipping organizations or logistics organizations, basics of material loading, having the quality check processes, at loading, at stacking, pre-movement of goods. Long way to go, I would say, on many of those processes being absolutely world class. And I think when I look at what happens internationally, what happens in India, I think logistics is a sector where we have I think it's a good thing that we have a lot of good work that needs to happen yet. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to hear comments from the other participants also, and the other group about what are the other good things and innovations people are thinking about.
Thank you, Ashish ji. That's a very wonderful exposition of how a company starts and sees that logistics as its major bottleneck and then extends onto the logistics sector. So it's a very, very good exposition, and also it is gives a fair idea to all the professionals that how much more we have to travel down the line to give a what is called hassle-free logistics to any customer.
Mr. Babu,
Okay.
I will, if you may, I will just share one small story. Take another minute. 4-5 years back, I was in Japan visiting one of our partners, and I saw they were doing at that time around $150 million of business, which was 4 times our size of business at that time, 5 times actually. And their central warehouse had 7 people. And I went there in the morning, and I could not believe it. 7 people, very less mechanization, and 7 people were running their entire warehousing setup. Right, this was in Japan, and at the same time, for 1/4 the size of company, we had 300 people in warehousing. Right, I kid you not, real story. And I just, at first I couldn't believe it. I just walked around. I thought maybe there is another day. Maybe people have gone for lunch. Right, what is happening? I stood there the whole day and kept watching what they were doing. I think unbelievable, so much to change. From that point, from that 300, 320 people, now over the last 4-5 years on our warehousing side, the number of people, by actually, and we are able to reward those people who are now with us a lot better. But now we have 35 people running a similar or slightly larger size of office, right? So there is a 10x, improvement on the efficiency and productivity. And it's not as if we were doing time pass before that, right? We were obviously trying to do our work properly only. But the shift that's possible on the way we work is actually quite immense. Over to you, back to you.
Thanks, Ashish. That's quite an insightful story. A fact which is looks more like a fiction and a story. Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
With Ashish, now we go over to Sri Raghavendra. Raghwendra is quite is at the other end of the logistics domain in the terms of he provides services to people who provide services to the customers. In the sense, as I understand, his company is in freight forwarder business, not freight forward business, digitizing freight forward experiences so that freight forwarders reduce their hassles. Their hassles are reduced to provide service to the customers. So this is a completely different spectrum from what Ashish has exposed us to. But again, it is a big sector and important role in logistics. So I request Chaitanya to introduce Sri Raghavendran, and then Raghavendran ji, you can continue. Chaitanya, please.
Thank you, sir, and good morning, everyone. I think it's really an honor to be introducing a young founder and CEO of FreightPro. Sri Raghwandan Nishnathan is, as I said, founder and CEO of FreightPro, and he's the one who has a great mix of technology and industry expertise, and he's been driving FreightPro since its inception to $1 million venture. And just a brief about his past, he was associated with companies like DHL and Panalpina, Vodafone, and HCL. And he has done his engineering from Anna University and has an MBA from NMIMS Mumbai. And FreightPro has got development centers all across the country and is facilitating companies in logistics to choose the right technology to optimize operations and rise above the competition. And I think this is a very niche area, and we would like to hear more from Sri Raghavendran. To you, Mr. Raghavendran. Thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya. Thank you so much. And thanks for the great introduction. And thanks, Ashish, for giving the insights. I'm the co-founder and CEO at FreightPro. And at FreightPro, again, the basic problem that we are trying to address that everybody speaks in most of the logistics forums are the 14% logistic cost, right? So India as a country. So we were talking about 14% logistic cost in all forums. So that's something that we keep talking in every single forum, especially logistic forums, that how we can bring down the logistic cost in India to lesser than 14% and compare it with countries which are much more developed, where especially in US or Europe, the logistic cost is lesser than 10%, right? It's all in the single digits. So especially when I was working with DHL and Panalpina and large freight forwarding companies, I realized that this industry, is far behind the actual technology adoption of other industries, be it retail or financial domains for that matter. We felt that freight forwarding requires a lot more push in terms of technology facelift, and that was the light bulb moment for us to start FreightGo. So at FreightGo, we are providing a SaaS-based subscription platform. So as when I say SaaS, SaaS is a technology which is given for a time period, and where we earn money on a monthly basis based on usage. So it's a subscription as a service model where we provide technology at a much inexpensive cost compared to buying technology or legacy softwares. We provide at a much inexpensive cost to, and also we keep reiterating, we keep innovating in the technology for the benefit of the overall crowd. So there are close to 200,000 freight forwarders who are, when I say freight forwarders, these are the people who facilitate the movement of cargo. So typically companies, they outsource their logistics to 3PLs or freight forwarders for their middle mile movement, which is ocean or air freight. Right? So these are the people who facilitate the movement of cargo, and their day-to-day job is primarily to ensure the cargo is delivered on time and the documentation and compliances are in place. And it's a nightmare if you go into a freight forwarding company, because there's a lot of firefighting that happens there. So immense amount of firefighting, because they're dealing with multiple shipments, multiple types, and there are different kinds of compliances that they have to be aware of. So at FreightGo, we felt that there needs to be a technology, not just to the end customer, but also to the facilitators of movement of cargo, to reduce the cost significantly. And that's how we came up with this idea. And in India, we are already the largest freight forwarder facing platform. So we are providing platforms to more than 400 freight forwarders in India. And COVID actually exposed the gaps of not digitizing the logistic industry. So after COVID, we also got a lot of leads from outside India. So we are present in close to 10 countries right now, and we are present in US, Europe, Canada, and also recently we got into Australia as well. So we feel that this freight forwarding industry, as people call the freight forwarders a middleman in the ocean freight or air freight transportation. So we are trying to provide platforms to structure their pricing, sales, as well as their rate management, which is typically done on spreadsheets and PDF documents and email templates. So we are trying to structure this data and enable these freight forwarders to be much more efficient and reduce costs dynamically. So we feel that even if there is a 10% reduction in the overall cost that goes for a freight forwarder by automating these processes, that's going to be a great impact in the overall logistic cost, so which will in turn help the landing cost of the goods to come down. So that's why we have taken a unique approach to service the freight forwarders rather than going to the end customer. And at FreightGo, we have two development centers. One is Mumbai, and the other one is Chennai. We are also setting up our sales offices across the world, and we are right now trying to be the platform of choice for global freight forwarders. We want to be the Shopify or fresh desk for freight forwarders across the world. And I think we are at the right place at the right time, and our customers love us, and we feel that we are creating an impact for the small and mid-sized freight companies across the world. And our target market is typically small and mid-sized companies, because these companies, they don't have deeper pockets to invest in their own technology. A large company can have a separate IT budget and can separately develop their own platforms. But smaller and mid-sized companies, they don't have these kind of budgets, and we are making their adoption to the next wave of technology a much more fluent one. So that's what we are doing.
Thank you, Mr. Raghwandran. It's again interesting area, interesting domain. Just to understand a little more, as I understand, because I do, not that I worked a lot with the freight forwarders or middlemen, but I did interact with them in various stints. and they're very, very close group, close knit. They have their knowledge of their own systems, their own language also. To be honest, if you sit with two freight forwarders, you will not understand anything. So, how as a entrepreneur entirely coming from a different domain, you could make a breakthrough and sell your product to them? Just money and insight will be quite helpful to many of us who are lost in our own lingo in different transport sectors. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think it's a very relevant question, right? So the we could actually understand this industry a lot more better because we were a part of it. So if you look at our core team, we have more than combined 100 years of experience in freight forwarding and logistics in our core team itself. So we understood this industry, and it's very difficult to sell to a niche sector who, like you mentioned, who have their own lingo if you don't understand them. And the second or the first biggest milestone for us is to gain their trust, right? So we are the only company who sells just to freight forwarders. We don't sell to transporters. We don't sell to cargo owners. We don't sell to the shipping lines or other players. We sell only to freight forwarders, and our goal is very focused on enabling these freight forwarders to adopt newer technologies. So the trust factor is very important when you are trying to basically sell to a niche segment, and it took time. So we are a 4-year-old company, and it took time for us to become the player that we are right now. And but at the same time, knowing the industry and gaining the trust by genuinely enabling the customers or enabling a segment to do what they do in a much better way is has made us what we are.
Thank you, Mr. Raghavendran. And maybe Sri Sarath Mishraji, who has a lot of experience in the freight forwarding with the freight forwarding industry, will make the discussion more lively in the more in the panel discussion. Now we go on to our next speaker, Sri Srinivas Madhavan. Again, a third speaker who's fire in the belly and so left his comfortable job with the thermal power plant construction company after which he joined after his engineering and set up one company, what is called We Deliver. And then We Deliver was doing a splendid job because being in Hyderabad, I knew and heard about it. But he was not happy with the way it grew. So again, he set up another company in association with a partner. And then that's what this XPRS is. So it is an intra-city delivery company focusing exclusively on the intra-city. They have brought in a lot of innovations in the intra-city delivery modalities, unlike where the central warehouse and people go and come back kind of a thing. So all this we need to hear from Sri Srinivas, and he is passionate about this job. And I welcome now Sri Srinivas to give his talk on the about his founding experience, about his experiences in founding the company and in taking it forward. Srinivas, welcome, please.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It is a very fine, morning for me to have the chat with you all. So I am Srinivas. I run a company called Express. It's into the last yard delivery. It all started with me having fever. This was way back in 2011 when I was suffering with fever and I wanted someone to deliver some breakfast and medicine on demand. And there was no such company which was actually delivering things on demand. And as Ravi sir mentioned, I was working for a thermal power plant construction company, and I wanted documents to be delivered to my client, who were in the same city. I met all the top-notch logistic companies to deliver documents which were to a client who is present in the same city, and everybody was mentioning that they will take at least 24 hours to deliver documents for a 4-kilometer distance. That's when I thought there is a vacuum in this, intra-city delivery segment, rather a point-to-point delivery segment. That's when I started We Deliver. We Deliver was an on-demand intra-city logistics company where people used to order right from food to documents to everything within the city, and we used to fulfill all those deliveries in 4 hours. So this was way back in 2011. I started this. So 11 to 13, I was validating if the problem statement was really big. So after validating the problem statement, 2014 is when I quit my job, started We Deliver. So since 2014 to 2018, we have fulfilled close to 20 lakh orders within the city of Hyderabad. But every time we thought of scaling it to multiple other locations, we had multiple issues like manpower recruitment or culture across the cities are different. Bangalore is completely different from Hyderabad, and the salary structure is different. While fulfilling orders in WeDeliver, we had a different problem again. One day, when these delivery guys went to one single location to deliver, I have seen 5 people were waiting in one single location. So this has further raised to the solution of creating nano distribution network across high demand clusters, and that's Express. What we essentially do in Express is we take space in a gated community, in tech parks, across high demand clusters. We take space, we deploy a couple of manpower there. All the e-commerce companies, all the delivery companies come to us, drop the parcels there and move to the next location. So this saves a lot of time to all the e-commerce companies there. And the guys who are stationed there are quite optimized, and each guy delivers 250 to 300 parcels a day in place of 50 to 60 parcels in a normal scenario. So what we essentially do is building this nano distribution network across high demand clusters, and we fulfill the last yard delivery. So people come to the warehouse, the nano warehouse that we have in gated communities. They drop the parcels there. Our guys stationed there deliver it to the last end consumer. That's what we have been doing. So this is a 2-year-old company. We have fulfilled around 3 million orders so far, and its peak. You can see I'm right in the car right now on the ground. So this is how last yard logistics work. Happy to take any questions with respect to the business model or my.
Thank you, Srinivas. That's a quick, wonderful, and short exposition. Before we go on to the panel discussion, I just need to ask you a question, because intra-city delivery is quite complicated in terms of the complexities associated with law and order agencies, regulatory agencies, and all those issues, and also with the gated community. So,
Right.
can you share your experience in this domain before we go on to the panel discussion? Thank you.
Sure, sir. In terms of the complexity is true, because we don't have the volume picking up quite. We had multiple issues with respect to the delivery guys on the ground. So I mean, the complexities are high, but the technology is really helping us to optimize the entire thing, sir. Yeah, in terms of complexities, we don't have any problem with the law enforcing authorities, but we still have complexities with respect to the route optimization or the mini truck movement optimization, where technology is helping us.
Okay, right. Now we go on to, thank you, Srinivas. That's again a wonderful this one. Now we'll go to the panel discussion. All those who are on the YouTube are requested to pose your questions to the forum. Moderated by Sharath Mishraji, assisted by Chaitanya and me. So before I go on to the actual discussion, I would like to now introduce Sharath Mishraji. I had known Sri Sharath Mishra almost last 25 or 30 years. First introduction was when he came to Jhansi in somewhere around 94 or something like that, to set up look for a container terminal or a container business unit there. And then the day was he came and then rushed us all, and then it was one 24-hour job compressed into a 6-hour tour, and then had a headlong entry into his knowledge and everything. So he is basically a civil servant of the Indian Railway Traffic Service, joined railways in 1980. Then after a lot of around 10-year tenure in mainly in the eastern parts of the country, where that's where you burn your fingers in the Indian Railways to learn about logistics, especially of the bulk cargo, the coal, iron ore, and steel, and all those things. And then he joined Concor as the founding team. And if Concor is a blue chip company, and part of the credit will certainly rub on to Sri Sharath Mishra, because he has been there through the thick and thin of it from its setup in somewhere in 1988. And then, of course, he himself is not a government civil servant like me. In the sense, after some years, he got fed up. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have gone on to head Concor. So he joined the private sector, set up a few companies in the fledgling private container train operations. Okay. After that, again, after private sector, he was again quite wanting to do something more. So he joined the consultancy industry, where he worked with all the big firms in the consultancy, Deloitte, PwC, and now he is the senior advisor in transport and consultancy in E&Y. So that's the brief background. And he is quite knowledgeable, and is one of the doyen in the containerization logistics industry, and it is quite we are quite privileged to have him as the moderator for the discussion. Sir, over to you. Any assistance, we are there to help you.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for this rather longish introduction, which I do not know how worthy I am of it. This is a very distinguished, smart young, distinguished panel of smart young men. I, being the eldest in this discussion, must start with a little story, which is become a favorite story of mine. Many of you may have heard it from me before. Mullah Nasruddin was a 13th century Turkish Sufi philosopher who was, well, in some sense considered an eccentric and was always a butt of his own jokes. He was found one evening looking for something outside his house. When some people passed by, they asked him what he was looking for. So Mullah Nasruddin stood up straight and said, well, I'm looking for my key, which I have lost, and I can't open the door, a certain door, which is very important at this moment. The people who were passing by asked him where he thinks he would have dropped the key. Mullah Nasruddin again replied, said that the key, he has dropped the key inside the house. So they said, why are you looking for the key here, outside? Mullah Nasruddin stood up straight and with a straight face says, I'm looking for it here because there is light here. There is light here, and therefore I'm looking for it outside. This is the end of the story. But it has a lot of interpretations which have been given to it. It's a very well-known anecdote. The philosophical world says that you have to look for the truth within and not outside. Well, I'd like to apply it to the startup industry, particularly in the logistics area. One thing which you learn from this is that there is a key. There is a key to success. That is known without doubt. And if you find that key, you will open the door to success. But how do you find the key? You have two options. One is to go inside the house, which is dark, and you all kind of spread around and grope for it. You may find it quickly or you may not find it. If you have a fairly good idea of where exactly you may have dropped it, you will, if you know where it was you had dropped it, you will find it that much easier. This is what I call the inheritor model. You understand the market well. There is a dominant standard design. You know exactly what to do, except that you can't, you are blind there because it is dark. So you have to make your efforts, remove inefficiencies, and you could get the key. Then there is the other option. This was the incremental option. This was the conservative option. But there is another option, which is to pluck the key, pluck the light from outside, bring it inside, and you will be able to find the key, obviously, much faster. But then that light may run out. There is technology needed to bring the light inside. It may not be easy to do that. It may not last for the time that you need it. Therefore, you have to be very quick. Your resources may run out. I mean, which is what I mean by saying that the light may run out. This is what is the innovator model. It is high cost of shifting the light, new technology, but the light time is limited, but fast if it happens, but a little uncertain. You do not know if the light will run out before you find the key. Startups don't operate in comfortable territory. There is a lot of uncertainty about concept, local conditions, misinformation, data availability, and then people quit, investors don't keep their word, clients complain, cash flows drop off, infrastructure does not keep up, regulators come knocking. Starting up is like opening the batting against swinging, bouncing missiles. But you have to enjoy the faint inside edge to the boundary and also be bold sometimes to hook a shot for a six. Startups are also about innovation, disruption, technology, and above all, an understanding of the market. They are also about understanding institutional frameworks and, of course, financing. I have 3 panelists here, and I have a structure in mind for our discussion. I will direct a point of discussion to one member generally, but anyone else is free to come in. So let's begin. When you people were actually thinking of the project, how granular was your concept? Or did you just have a problem to solve, or did you have some idea of the solution also? Or you felt that you could just let it evolve? Can I begin with Ashish? Because his idea, he seems to feel that logistics problem is not an easy problem to solve. I am quite happy to hear that, because it's not something which is an appendage to industry. It is an industry on its own, and that's the treatment it should get. It may be at the low end of industry today, but then if only it is with people like you that it will actually change. Can I begin with your response on this?
Thanks, Mr. Mishra. Pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm guessing you want me to respond to that it should not be just another part of the business, but a critical.
No. So what I wanted you to talk about is the granularity of your concept. When you thought this up, did you have a solution in mind, or did you think that the solution will come over a period of time as you worked at it?
Yeah, surprisingly, we, right or wrong is a different matter. But at the start of when we started building, we had put together a fairly comprehensive solution set of what exactly we wanted to do across. We defined in three pillars: sourcing, selling, and service. And the logistics part fell under the service part. So we had put together the operating model for service for different kinds of cities, including what is the model that we would use for warehousing, what is the model you would use for long haul shipping, what is the model we would use for delivery and last mile installation in different cities. Now, of course, that evolved over time. But I think partly I had a little bit of experience in distribution of products. Not only in the logistics, but at least some part of the logistics we used to run in my earlier work. So we were able to, and we I think got also lucky to meet a lot of people who were able to guide us on what are the right ways of thinking about the whole logistics sort of setup to do. So yeah, I think at start we were able to put together at least a reasonable blueprint. I would say we were maybe about 30-40% sort of on track on what we need to do, and the remaining 50-60% had to evolve as we went. But at least my push would always be to be more detail oriented than less. There's a famous saying, better to sweat in peace than to bleed in war. So my bias would always be that you work harder. When the business starts, then it's sort of the business world equivalent of war. None of us really are in war. We are sort of safe and sound all the time, but it's the business equivalent of war. When business starts, consumers standing in front of you, then you don't have that much time to think and so as much thinking, as much planning as you can do ahead of time.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. Ravi, he was trying to be nice to CILT by saying that he was looking for railways as an answer. Now, railways obviously don't move furniture in small quantities, but I would suggest to Ashish that he should look at the container business, because that is the way to go and use the railway system as well and move containers on it. And there is a huge variety of containers now which is available, different types, different you can suit it to your requirement. Raghavendra, I also wanted your response on the same question as to how granular was your concept and how did you really grow it?
Yeah, so again, what Mr. Ashish mentioned, it's always better to have the blueprint laid out, and there will definitely be. So you will most of the time sway away from the plan that you have put based on the real world possibilities. But with respect to my experience starting up and the last 4 years, since I had some real world experience about freight forwarding and logistics. So about the sales. So I was typically trying to solve my problem when I was in my previous job. So I was trying to solve my problem. So I was the customer, and I was trying to do some Excel macros. I was trying to build something on my own to make my job easier at work and be the star performer. So it was purely, I would call it, it was my vested interest to solve my problem to become a better salesperson, and that's how the company started from there. But we also pivoted as we understood the industry better, because you also know container transportation that there is no one playbook. If there is one playbook in container transportation or freight forwarding, then it could have been online. So if you want to learn about technology, if you want to learn about retail, if you want to learn about anything that you want, you can go, you can learn courses online. You can get a fair bit of understanding of those industries. But logistics is always a black box. If you look at it, you don't open Google and type certain things and understand and then get on field and start working on it. So the kind of information that is available in logistics, it's not freely available, and that is one of the reasons why you also mentioned that people don't get into logistics, or people always look at logistics as a last opportunity to enter. They always look at finance, or they look at retail, or they look at government roles for that matter. Logistics, you don't find a lot of IIT or IIMs or people from these schools joining logistics and saying that, hey, I'm going to change the face of it. So hence, by starting something just for logistics service providers, we had to have a playbook in mind, but not be very rigid about it. So we said that, hey, let's have a playbook. Let's put out all our understanding in place, but let's not be rigid about it. If somebody is going to challenge us, let's be flexible so that let's give them an answer rather than saying that no, my understanding is right. Right. So that's how we went about it. And to put into percentages, like Mr. Ashish mentioned, so I would say that we went with 20 or 30 percentage ready, and the industry gave us the remaining 80%. Because the best thing about logistics is everybody is fairly vocal about their problems, right? Everybody wants, they say that, hey, this is my problem, but I don't know how to solve it, or it's expensive to solve it. Can you help me with that? So logistics service providers or the freight forwarders became our product managers. We didn't have product managers early on. We didn't have product leaders. They became our product managers. They told us how to build the technology for them to help themselves. So, and I feel that being flexible will definitely have its own advantages, but having a little bit of details at start and then going and not going with a preconceived notion also help us.
Very interesting. I like your statement that this is an industry where education kind of falls way behind, which is why I said it was this industry is at the low end of all industry, and I think that is what needs to change. You made a statement in your disposition earlier that logistics industry is far behind in technology adoption. I think that is something we'll come to later. But Srinivas, I mean, there is a concept, there is a problem to be solved, there is a solution in mind. How much market validation do you actually do before launching into it? How large, for instance, would be the sample? Is it concentrated in an area, or is it more exploratory and widespread? How do you assess, for instance, market acceptability of your concept? I mean, a client, a vendor, regulator, Government of India, partner government agencies, labor, banks. I mean, there are so many people to satisfy. Market acceptability, therefore, is something you will have to do. Do you do a lot of it before launching, or do you actually, again, it's the same thing? I mean, how much do you do earlier? How much do you do later?
So I have done this twice, sir. So when I was having the problem in 2011, I took 2 years to validate the problem, whether the problem was really a big one. So I started using Google Ad services. Whenever somebody types food delivery on demand or food delivery, my WeDeliver ad used to come, and I used to go personally deliver the food parcel to the customer and ask if the problem was a real problem for them, if they were willing to pay. That's how we have validated the idea 2 years before, because I'm the first generation entrepreneur. I don't have any backing of business, or I never knew the difference between an entrepreneur versus a businessman, startup versus a company. So all of this, I'm a mechanical engineer. We need to understand all of this. So after doing all of that, and finally knew that, yes, there's a big pool of professionals who are coming up and who are really busy every day. They wanted somebody to assist with the deliveries. That's when we decided, let's jump into this, quit the comfortable job and get into this. So that was my first phase of validating the market. The second phase was during launching Express. So while delivering things, every time I used to see the tracker, 5 delivery boys, 6 delivery boys were waiting outside a tech park. So 20 minutes into 5 delivery guys waiting is 100 minutes. And that was, if somebody gets into a gated community, he also takes anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. I was losing all those golden minutes. So it took us 6 months then. I mean, I have taken a good 8 to 10 interns from good business schools to understand the problem. I was there on the ground talking to the customers who are sitting inside the tech park, talking to the delivery guys who were sitting on the footpath. So both sides problems existed. And that's when we said, okay, this is even a bigger problem to be solved, and nobody else is there in this segment. So in the first case, I've taken 2 years to validate the problem. In the second case, I've taken 6 months to get into this. So I had good plan before entering into the business.
Okay. Now, I think startups are also, you are all successful startups, but startups are also known for high failure rate.
Right.
Is that really such a serious problem that people get dissuaded from following up a very good project or a very good concept? I mean, this country also has this whole issue of data unreliability, and therefore to launch into something where everything is not kind of visible upfront is a little difficult. Are there these constraints which come in the way?
That will certainly come, sir, because when we are trying to create something new which is non-existent, we have a challenge to be solved every single day. So it can be on the basis of technology, it can be on the basis of the regulatory rules or whatever. So whether it is ESIs, PF, everything. So when we are trying to create a new market, the hurdles are always there. But once we solve that, then it becomes a habit of solving challenges every other day.
Now I address this one to all of you. I would be happy to receive responses from all three of you. How important has been technology, and mainly technology adoption in the logistics area in your business? Here I'm of course referring to access, adaptation, knowledge, expertise, cost, people that you have. Was it very difficult to implement technology in the logistics industry? We can begin with Ashish.
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance of technology, I think everybody is aware. I mean, but I mean, technology comes in all forms and shapes. There's of course the nowadays whenever somebody talks of technology, we are always referring to the software side of the equation, which I think is super important. But I think there's an equally important or probably even larger and more neglected part, which is on the hardware side of technology, especially in the logistics side. Um, One of the challenges, I find in challenges or in opportunity, whichever way, in software side technology, especially on the supply chain domain, is that okay, I'll just contrast that with when you're building consumer-facing products. When you're building consumer-facing technology products, you can change and iterate a lot faster, and that's the nature of the beast. That you put something in front of the consumer, and you sort of learn from that experience, you iterate, change, and move forward. Given the more structural nature of logistics and the core supply chain system, the build quality needs to be lot stronger, lot more long term oriented, and that I think ends up being one of the sort of issues that if the investment in technology and thinking is not done with the long term view, then over a period of time, that just causes a lot more pain than it than the number of problems it solves. And I think for a lot of people, investing in a deeper quality of thinking on logistics and supply chain, I think is not easy because it's expensive as well. But I think building with a longer term view for the core supply chain systems, I think is very, very important. I think the good thing is that at least in today's world, everybody is pretty much willing to embrace and work with newer and newer technology. I don't think a willingness to embrace new technology and adopt it is really a blocker. Pace could be different across different industries and different organizations, but I think generally everybody is well aware that you have to move with the time. So I don't think adoption generally tends to be a challenge. I think it's more how long term a view are you able to take.
Raghavendra?
Yeah, so with respect to technology adoption, so that's something that I also mentioned before. It's not about understanding technology, because so we are used to a lot of B2C products. When I say B2C products, the consumer facing products, take Zomato or Swiggy or Flipkart or Amazon for that matter. At the end of the day, every consumer or every user who are using these products are someone who can use a B2B product as well. So when we are, especially when from our point of view, when we are developing products, we wanted to give the same kind of experience as how a B2C product would be given. So how it would be as easy as booking a flight ticket on Make My Trip. We are trying to bridge the same gap of booking a container transportation for a freight forwarder internally. So and with respect to technology adoption, it's not about the industry per se. If you're talking about India, I would definitely say that we are, with respect to even our understanding and our maturity to adopt new products, we are still behind mature markets like US or Europe, because we are selling to markets like US or Europe where the ability to pay for technology is a lot more, and their willingness to pay also. India as a market, our economics doesn't allow us to pay for technology. Or we have had, even if you take Microsoft products, we have had multiple pirated versions of Windows and Office tools in the market, right? So our understanding of technology is that it's free. It is not something tangible, so there's no need to pay for it, or it doesn't come with a hefty fee. But it is slowly changing. We are seeing products like Zohos and Freshworks trying to capture markets like India also, even though their primary markets being the mature markets like US. It's slowly changing, but it will take its time, especially in freight forwarding and logistics. It's going to take its time. And right now, it's an education phase. I would call the next 2 to 3 years an education phase for the logistic companies and the industry per se to understand the technology, to understand the like Mr. Ashish mentioned, what kind of technologies will last for a longer time, what kind of technologies will be flexible to change along with the changing climates of logistics. So this is the understanding phase, and I think after the next 24 months, that will be the time where we will start adopting technology in a far more faster pace. But the next 2 years is primarily going to be people understanding what is blockchain, what is AI, what is ML, because we all talk about blockchain in forums, but without having data online, there is no point in talking about blockchain. It's like talking about running without even crawling. So we need to first crawl. We need to think about crawling first, and then crawl, and then talk about running. So that's how we are taking. So we are now telling them to adopt. Actually, start putting data online. Let's not have everything offline. Start looking at security aspect, and then let's talk about AI, ML, or blockchain. And we feel that it's evolving. Light is definitely there at the end of the tunnel, and logistics will see that end of the tunnel in the next 2 years.
Thank you. Srinivas, can we have your take on this also?
Yes, sir. So for us, with respect to adoption of technology, I think we are in the right time in terms of technology. So if I had this idea a decade ago, probably I would not have solved the problem the way I'm solving it today. So right from the GPS to the internet speed that people are getting, technology adoption in terms of both from the industry perspective versus the consumer perspective, both are getting adopted so rapidly that I'm certainly confident that the inefficiencies that are there in logistics will slowly get disappeared over a period of 3 to 4 years is what I feel.
Uh, uh, Coming to another area of concern, what has your experience been in, for instance, dealing with governments, with government agencies, regulators, and of course, competition, if there is competition of some kind? Again, let me begin with Ashish again.
I mean, working with government uh, is a part of doing business in India, uh, across pretty much the entire spectrum. We work with the government, whether it is on the custom side, whether it is on the indirect tax side, movement of goods across many layers. Uh, I wish things were a lot more seamless as far as our regulatory processes are concerned. Uh, and we can only hope that as the benefits of the GST implementation fall in place completely, things become. But yeah, I mean, I would say that's dealing with the government at this time is more of a blocker than an enabler, or friction that you have to manage as opposed to an enabler to building business fast and strong. But I mean, continue to remain hopeful that things have improved, and I hope they continue to improve. I think, I mean, obviously, competition is reality in any business. I don't think there's any where there is no competition, and I think good competition keeps us on our toes. So that's, I think, part of the overall equation. So I mean, I look at it more as, there is our competitors will always keep doing a lot of good things. So what all can we learn from them and absorb into our work? I think that's the way I would take it.
The governments generally are familiar with an investing role or a regulatory role. I think time has now come for governments to become more facilitators than anything else. Do you see that trend changing, or you think still they are in the control mode? Again, I'm
Yeah, I
still with
think
Ashish.
I think at the broader uh, policy level, I think there are clear efforts from the government side to play a facilitator role. But I mean, obviously, you're part of the government system, so you would naturally be a lot more familiar. As an outsider, to me, I think there are many levels to for that, not different, whether at the state level or at the more localized bodies or in the different departments. I think at that level, I don't think the mindset is facilitation. I think at that level, the mindset continues to be, well, let's just say at best it is an auditor's mindset at best.
Yeah, I quite agree with that. I have worked on both sides. I'm quite in agreement with what you're saying. Raghavendra, what is your view on this?
With respect to, I'll start with competition. Since Ashish mentioned a lot about government, I'll start with competition. With respect to competition, for us, the focus, especially with respect to business model, we were very focused on one aspect of things, which is container transportation and logistics service providers. So, and with the kind of presence that we have a development center in India, right? So, and we are able to ship products across the world. We are at a greater advantage. So any SaaS player or any technology company based out of India has a greater advantage in terms of cost and in terms of the agility to market by basing ourselves here. So competition, again, we don't have a lot many players in this space trying to do the same thing, and the cost and value, the graph, if you look at it, freight forwarders are very picky about the cost aspect of it, irrespective of where they are. So we are able to demonstrate better value to the freight forwarders for the cost that they give us. So competition is not a big hindrance for us, especially in this part of the world and in this sector. With respect to government, I think the understanding of of what the startup is providing to the industry is very important. So I think there's nothing harm in taking a regulatory stand, but when you have to be a facilitator, the understanding of basics is very important. And with the national logistic policy, and also we also had a closed door meeting with the ex chief secretary of logistics, Mr. Srinivas. So I think the government is also now taking into account that startups will create dent in the ecosystem. They have seen startups doing that, so they feel that startups, they have deeper pockets to create dent in the ecosystem, but they have to look at multiple factors. Startups, so that from a startup point of view, we can at some point of time we cannot be choosy about our investment. We cannot be choosy about who we get money from. So that should not basically make government look at a startup differently. As long as we are able to create a better ecosystem for the players that we provide platforms to. So I think that is something that government has to, because being a regulator is not a wrong thing, but being a regulator right from start might not help a startup go anywhere or accomplish anything, because we are seeing startups getting recognized by government authorities across the world, and we want the same kind of treatment in India. It is changing, but it is slowly changing. It's not changing at the same pace at which a startup changes or startup evolves. So we expect the same pace there as well.
Thank you. No, the government must at least get into the logistics game by Ashish, by certainly by filling up the roads they have dug up in your last mile connectivity. Srinivas, what do you think the government's role is, and how can it be improved? What, for instance, do you think the Department of Logistics must do?
So, like others were mentioning, sir, there is a lot from the government that can be done in terms of facilitating the logistics framework. So there were multiple. Every 6 months, I get a mail from. I'm registered under Startup India program. I get a mail from the government authorities asking for suggestions, and I take a good enough amount of time to fill the suggestions, and they just go. I don't get any reply, or at least the change happening. So this has been happening for the last 2 years. So I think there can be multiple regulations that can happen in favor of the startups at least. Let's say we recruit the first 200 employees. We had to pay them, the entire COVID season when there was lockdown. They were completely dependent on us. So we also had, technology team in place. So government has brought in a rule saying that if you have 90% of the labor or employees with less than 50,000 salary, then we will pay 50% of the ESI or PF. That did not make any sense for us. I mean, we had to pay no matter what. Though we fall in the startup category, though we had the first 200 employees on the ground, we also had technology people. So the rule that 90% people should be less than 15,000 rupees, that
Yeah.
particular statement itself has taken away the benefit that government wanted to give us. So there's a lot from the government that can be done. That's what I feel in terms of the startups, at least. Only they. So let me take an example, sir. So during the COVID, our minister, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, Telangana's minister, we had to deploy 3 delivery guys there at his office. Whenever somebody tweets that they need some medicine to be picked, express guys were there on the ground to pick the medicine and deliver it. So again, we had multiple, though it was from the minister's office, we had multiple other rules and regulations to show the pass. We have to tell them where are we coming from, all of these things. So there was no framework where we can always declare and work with pride. So every time police stops us on the on the road, the delivery guy gets scared.
Yeah. So yes, these are very difficult situations to deal with.
Right.
I can't not come to the issue of financing. What kind of difficulties did you face? Was that a major bottleneck? Uh, how are you placed now? Are things working out, Ashish? No, the question was about financing. What difficulties did you face? Are you still encountering them? How do banks and any other private equity, how do they treat you? How have things been?
Yeah, I think financing is a critical part of a business. So at different times, it's been different kind of challenges towards financing, and lots of learnings. I think especially on the debt financing side, till the cash flows are rock solid. I think. Especially for a brand-oriented business like us, which is obviously not a heavy asset business in that sense, very important to not go towards debt financing till your own cash flows are strong and stable. I think the good news is that today the private financing market is a lot more open than it was, let's say, 20, 25 years back or even 10 years back. So in that sense, there is a lot more financing. Private financing available, which of course was completely non-existent 20, 25 years back, and has improved even a lot from the last 10 years. But yes, I mean, it comes with its own caveats and riders and sort of challenges. One of the questions always for an entrepreneur, and one of the co-panelists spoke about how they've obviously started from their own means, not coming from business family. Similar case for me as well. So in that, obviously, you need capital to get off the ground. Not easy, but I think at least that market has evolved a lot, and there are lots of opportunities for raising capital available today, private capital.
Raghavendra?
Yeah. So with respect to again the industry itself, if you look at it, so we are going and selling a technology platform for freight forwarders. So it's not just our financing as a startup for that matter. We look at the customers' financing because the freight forwarding industry works on working capital, and we also try to provide crowdsourcing means to our customers to pool in capital and get it up and running. One thing before getting into the startup fundraising and how we manage capital, one thing is the industry still, the logistics for that matter, still doesn't have industry status. Right? So that is something that government has to definitely look into it. It's employing so many people in the country, and without an industry status, leave startups. Startups can raise funds across the world. You can raise funds from VCs from the US or Singapore or anywhere. But for the 3PLs or small and mid-sized freight forwarders and the people who are employing other people in during this pandemic in this industry, where volumes have come down drastically, it's very difficult to get financing from banks or NBFCs without having an industry status there. So I think that is something that has to be taken into account during this season as well. Coming to the startup financing part, like Kashish mentioned, it has opened up a lot. So even when we started in 2016 to where we are right now, we are getting a lot of interest from people outside India. Indian VC or PE community, for that matter, they still are not looking at the logistics, especially middle mile, that intently. But outside India, it's a big opportunity. Everybody knows it's $1 trillion industry, especially ocean freight transportation. So people are willing to invest in this industry, and again, it has its own advantages and disadvantages. Getting money doesn't come free of cost. It comes with its own positives and negatives. And as an entrepreneur, we have to weigh in what is the baggage of the money that comes in, and what are the compromises or what are the upsides that you have with this money, and we have to take a call there. So there's no free lunch in entrepreneurship. We are all three are first generation entrepreneurs, I guess. So we basically take a decision and also go back and reverse engineer a decision and see, look at the positives and negatives and make a better decision next time. That's how we reiterate our decision making as well. So, but yeah, the funding aspect has definitely become much better, and startups who are trying to solve something in this industry, they should definitely jump into it, and because there are people willing to finance both institutional as well as individuals. So that's a good thing.
Thank you. Srinivas, uh, uh, I think we need to be a little brief now.
Yes, sir. So, with respect to the funding, I use the word relatively. Relatively, the things got much better when compared to at least 3-4 years back, even with respect to logistics. So, institutional financing is still there for all deserving companies or deserving ideas. But for the government for financing, there needs to be a lot of effort from the startups perspective, showing the collateral and all, which is next to impossible, sir. So, institutional financing is easy, whereas governmental financing is pretty difficult to get for any startup for that matter.
Yeah, I I I see the pain there, and I think this is where I think we need to build up something on the issue of Raghavendra, on the issue of industry status. Unfortunately, this industry is seen as an industry which has different modes of transport. It has terminals, it has warehouses, and so on and so forth. It does not seem to understand that there is a softer element of logistics which you are all dabbling in, which therefore does not, that element does not. I mean, for instance, terminal construction and MMLP today has industry status. But on the service front or on the softer aspects of logistics, there is no thought process yet. Let me try and wind up, but I can't help but ask one last question. And this is about your personal your personality traits. Do you people take decisions yourself, or do you make it a consultative process? How much are you given to individual overconfidence? And of course, I read something very interesting a while ago. It says that if an entrepreneur, particularly a startup entrepreneur, if he actually says that he is doing it for fun, he's not taken seriously. Fun for me is really serious business. If you don't have fun in something, you cannot, you will not succeed. What are your views on this? Did you enjoy doing this, or were you just caught up in the agony of it all, of succeeding because you knew there was so much failure around you? Ashish?
Yeah, I think to your question, I think it's fairly clear for me as an entrepreneur, not even as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you have to hold your own counsel while being relentless in getting diverse viewpoints that help you shape your thinking. And it's very, very important to have viewpoints contradictory to yourself, strong contradictory viewpoints, because that helps sharpening the quality of thinking. But I think at the end, you have to hold your own counsel. And we all see a lot of examples of decisions by committee, and generally I'm not a believer in that going very well. So you have to hold your own counsel as a leader and an entrepreneur. But I think it's important to surround yourself with smart people, and smart people who will be willing to tell you are wrong. So, and that helps sharpening the quality of thinking. So that was first. I think the second, I very much agree with you. I mean, I am actually very clear personally in my life, what I do professionally. If I'm not, and I would sort of separate, maybe fun, joy, these are slightly different words. But I'm super clear. Both fun as well as joy, which are two different concepts. But I think not having either of the two doesn't work for me these days. So I'm very clear. You're not enjoying something, don't do it. And you want to have fun while you're doing whatever you're doing. So yeah, it's a non-negotiable actually.
Raghavendra?
Yeah, so with respect to the fun aspect of it, again, I worked in corporates before, so we have all, I think Ashish also worked with McKinsey before. So we all come from a background where we had a stable job in place. But by starting something and the fulfillment, more than fun, I would call it the happiness and fulfillment that comes with being an entrepreneur and having your own startup solving real issues is what keeps us going. So getting up, so to put it very simply, we don't get tired on a Monday morning. So we just we look forward for Monday mornings, and for that matter, we even work fully on a Sunday that we don't even realize what day it is sometimes. We just have to open our calendar and look at it. So to keep going, we need to have that patience and perseverance. And with respect to decision making, if you look at it, we strongly believe, especially believe in, you have to be able to speak at both the sides of the line. So that you have to be, if there is a debate as well. So we feel that a smart person will be able to speak both the sides, not just take one side. So we take that call, and we believe in not just in gray cells but also in gray hair. We consult with people with a lot of experience. We know for a matter of fact that experience cannot be bought. So we consult with people from the industry with a lot of experience, and we then consult and put all the positives and negatives and then take a call on that. I believe in taking a decision together collectively with my team. So I have people again, like Ashish mentioned, who can challenge me and who can also take ownership on decisions. So who can come back after 2 months and say, "Hey, I think this went wrong. Let's just correct quickly." So we need to have people who can take ownership and responsibility, and that's how we are building a team. People are the most important part of any company, and we are empowering people to take their own decisions and make sure that it's a successful company for them.
Srinivas?
Yes, sir. So basically, decision making varies with the stage of the company. If it is an early stage or idea stage company, only founder has to and nobody else. Over a period of time, as the company grows, and once we start hiring experts, they should be given all freedom, and their decision, can make or break the company. Should just over what kind of decisions are the experts taking. So, and the second part of it, everywhere we have fun and frustration. So the level of fun, the level of frustration decides whether we are enjoying the work or not. Usually when we start our own things, we'll have more of fun and less of frustration, but frustration do exist. So it's all about it, sir.
Thank you. Ravi, before I pass it on to you, I must say that if I continue working with, the likes of Ernst & Young, it is predominantly because I get to meet youngsters and work with them, very bright youngsters who are part of those companies. It is so wonderful working with them. I had a lot of fun today with these youngsters who have really succeeded in life, and I wish them the very best in their ventures in the future. With that, I pass it on to you, Ravi.
Thank you, sir. I think not only you, I think I should join one of these companies and work as a starter in the beginning of the career.
No, you
That's
start a startup.
Yeah. Okay. Right, sir. Now, Chaitanya and Balaji, can you pose the audience questions to respect to panel members? Because some people, Ashish is tight pressed for time. If you can summarize Ashish questions, or anyway, the questions are less only, so you can go one by one or as per your sequence.
Yes, there's one question from Sri Vijay Singh to Sri Ashish, sir. He says, how to communicate value to your end customers? How do you listen to them to innovate and develop further? And what do companies do regarding green supply chain, and are there environmental concerns considered? This is the question. First part of the question is to Sri Ashish.
Yeah, I think the first part I think is very important, and I'll just put this in the context of our business, where we started selling our own brand furniture online, and there obviously it becomes a big question mark, right? You're a new brand, furniture, which is a large ticket, complex purchase. How do you buy? How do you buy a sofa set online, right? And what is the communication that helps you cross that bridge of distance? And I think for us, we put together a fairly comprehensive plan. This was many years back. So, we put together what we call a 7-point content building plan for customers, which included, we invested a lot in absolutely brilliant and useful visual merchandising. Because you're buying online, right? So the image is the only thing that you have in front of you. Then we invested a lot in very, very good quality content as well. That's the second. Third, I think single most important thing which we did our level best to work on was to build great customer referral sheet. Because you can see from all the buildings in the world, but one real customer's message to another real customer, I think, goes a very, very long way. Testimonials, whether on our website or on social media, I think ended up being, I would say, the single biggest determinant for building belief in customers and for them to understand what value we were actually delivering to them. That's, I think, those are, I think, some of the points. But I think that's one of those long-term continuous journey is constantly thinking about how to create value to your end customers. In terms of listening to customers, again, I come from a direct-to-consumer brand world where we are fortunate to have direct communication with customers across multiple channels. If you're willing to listen to it, then the channels are there to get a lot of feedback, and a lot of that comes to us pretty much real time. And you have to put in place all the enablers for that feedback to get collected and for that to get filtered or not filtered, in fact, and to get to all the key members of the organization so that they can base their decisions basis what the customers are saying. And I think, that's again one of the technology questions. It's a question of how well you build your technology so that you actually are truly in sync with what your customer is saying at all points. I would say some of our best product development, best solutioning, biggest choices we have made have always been, driven by what the customer has said.
Anything on the green consumption? And one question says, you consider what is the impact on the environment and environmental concerns, and if any are, whether they are being considered in the entire gamut of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be done in that. What we do is there are two parts that we are as an organization able to influence the most actively in terms of the largest impact of influence that we can have. One is what is our raw material sourcing. So that we are absolutely clear about. We absolutely do not work with any raw material that is not sustainably produced. And especially on the raw material side, which is wood, which is a large part of our business. So, for example, in India, a lot of people ask us that, why don't you do, let's say, teak wood, or in some areas of the country, why don't we plastic? Why we don't do rosewood, right? Teak is one of those, iconic raw materials in India. We don't do wood because most of the wood that's available in the market is actually the chain of ownership is not clear, and we are not sure whether it is actually sustainably farmed or planted or not. And hence we don't deal in that raw material. The raw materials we use, by and large, we are clear about what are the environmental impacts, and we try to be to the top end of being environmentally conscious in our raw material usage. The second part is which is around reusable packaging. That's a very large part of our environmental impact as an organization. So there, I would say we have made some steps. I think long way to go. Because uh, we track what is the percentage of raw material of packaging raw material that we are able to reuse uh, in one part. Second, reuse in our own system, right? We repackage, reuse those the cardboard boxes, the plastic packaging raw material. That's one part. Second part of that is, which is actually very clear, that we do not use raw materials which do not meet the government environmental guidelines for packaging, from and which are non reusable raw materials. We absolutely do not use any such material for packaging. So I think those are the two things that two dimensions. One is what is the raw material for our products. So we are very clear we use only sustainable raw materials. We will not, even if that means profit business, we will not work with woods which are not which we are not 100% sure are sustainably farmed. Second is packaging material part, where I think I would give us maybe a 5 on 10, because there is a lot of work that we need to do yet on making our raw material circle back, and for it to be automatically improve the sustainability from an environmental standpoint.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. There's one question to Srinivas, sir. Manage service. Yes, I think there is one question which is about instances of applying artificial intelligence, machine learning, or blockchain in the business. Maybe Raghavan would be like to take this question. Raghavan.
So, like I mentioned, especially for the segment that we are, AI, ML, and blockchain, again, they are good to have concepts right now. They are not a need in the industry. And for a blockchain use case to be happening, you need multiple parties to come together. The most important party is a regulatory authority to be a part of the blockchain as well. So, with I think it's we can safely assume that at least 2 or 3 quarters from now only we'll do a successful blockchain pilot in this industry and showcase the advantage. And also we have to take into account, again, like I mentioned, it's a good to have technology. We have to take into account the cost that it takes to manage and maintain this technologies for the economics of our market, and we'll have to take into. So that's the reason why we have not adopted this from day one. We'll have to first start putting data online, and we are in the process of now doing a digital twinning. So the technology that we are doing is called digital twinning, which is basically converting the physical documents and physical data points to digital data points. And once we have enough digital data points, we can use any technology on top of it. So that's what we are doing.
Sir, we have a couple of questions directed to Srinivas specifically because they are relating to intra-city delivery, and then regarding experience of startups in small towns, challenges and opportunities of startups in logistics sector in small towns. Maybe Raghavan or Srinivas would like to take this question.
Yeah, with respect to small towns, I think the picture is not that great. So in India, there has to be accelerators. So there are very industry specific accelerators, and also institutional large companies also, like we are part of Geo's accelerator as well. So So there are large companies who want to enable startups to work on a pilot projects with them. So if we can get industry specific tier 2, tier 3 accelerators, I think that will make startup exposure better in these markets as well. But for B2C, tier 2 and tier 3 have done very well, especially if you look at KTMs and other financial technology companies. They have done very well in tier 2, tier 3. B2B, the reach is low because the concentration of companies are also primarily in the cities, tier 1 cities, right? So that's the reason. But again, with a regulatory push and also accelerator support, I think there will be definitely startups in these places.
Thank you.
Ashish might like to respond to this small town issues because they also had, I think, problems. So they're focusing on large cities only as of now. Ashish ji.
Yeah, I think we operate right now in 11 cities, but in the past we have operated in up to 30. Actually, we have formal operations, direct operations in 11 cities. We operate in about 22 cities today. So I don't know, whether we are talking about like tier 3 towns. Frankly, we don't have any direct business exposure there in terms of being present with our teams. But I would say at least 50-60% of our team members come from small towns. So I think that reality of urban migration definitely impacts us. But yes, we don't have direct exposure of having operations in a very small town.
Okay, thank you. Chaitanya, continue to the next question.
I think one last question, sir. That is, I think it is directed to Srinivas. Uh, uh, it is about the intracity model. How do you analyze demand for this very uncertain and requires good amount of man force to deliver things on time? Kindly explain. Is what.
So
Srinivas
there are
is-
two. Can you
Continue,
hear me now, sir?
Srinivas. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you. Continue, please.
Yes, sir. So there are two sides to this coin, sir. So we started with B2C where there was a lot of unpredictability. And then slowly over a period of time, we have moved to the B2B model where businesses were giving us the total number of orders, their projections. So currently, let's say Amazon, even ahead of the festive season, they clearly knew mostly the volume of orders that we had to deliver. So we are able to plan better. So when we started with B2C, there was a lot of unpredictability. But once we started moving towards B2B model, the unpredictability has come down. So currently, we have good view for the next couple of months on the predictability.
Thank you, Srinivas. Would you like to answer the question on opportunities of your startup in small towns? I mean, whether do you see any challenges or opportunities that you can get into the smaller towns?
So for us, sir, it is mostly the high demand clusters which are existent in the top metros or the top 10 cities of India. So our solution doesn't suit to the small towns as on date. But I see over a period of time, e-commerce volumes picking up in tier 2, tier 3 towns. Over a period of time, probably we'll have an opportunity to get into there. But as on date, our solution is more applicable to the urban kind of scenario.
Sir, over to Ravi, sir. Questions are over, sir.
Questions are over. Then vote of thanks only you will be proposing. So you can propose the vote of thanks, Chaitanya.
Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Sri Sridhar Mishra, sir, first of all, for having consented to moderate today's discussion. And the discussion was quite deftly organized by sir, covering almost all aspects of startups. We had three eminent personalities from the startups who are dealing in logistics, and we are very glad that we had them. And I was able to cover all aspects of startup, starting from the problem area to the idea generation to the innovation and the operational issues that they face, the regulations of the government, finances, and finally the entrepreneur's perspective towards his work. Today, I mean, we are all very privileged to be audience to such a wonderful discussion where we could hear from the budding entrepreneurs and also established entrepreneurs who are working to set up good startups and engage. And we got it was a very insightful discussion. I think all not only us who are in the panel and also our viewers. There are almost 30 members on the YouTube who are following us. They were all, I'm sure they're enlightened by today's discussion. And I would like to specially thank Sri Ashish Goyal, Sri Srinivas Madhavam, and Sri Raghwandan Nishnathan for having spared their valuable time. We know your time is very valuable, and we are very glad that you could spare it with us, and also to share your experience with all the viewers. And I'm sure some of our viewers will be inspired to take your footsteps, and it also gave a good insight into your thinking and your working as an entrepreneur. And we, on behalf of CILT, are very thankful to you for having spared your time and having shared your experience. And finally, I'd like to thank the team that has put up this technical team that it was able to get this seminar going. Thanks to Sri Sadik and Vishal. Also, thanks to CILT, Hyderabad, headed by Ravi sir, and then also Sajid sir with us. I think we can close this seminar by now, sir. With this, sir. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, one last word. Both the audience in the YouTube, your participation is wonderful. Questions are also wonderful. And finally, those of you who are not joined, members of the CILT, please join. You'll get enriched. That's my final request. With this, I thank all the panelists from bottom of my heart for all the contribution that you made to the webinar. Thanks a lot.